Stop making this one huge mistake in Overwatch Stadium that is making your item build mathematically inefficient. And that is having empty slots in your items. This is not good and you're wasting your credits. By the way, for anyone wondering, I reached all stars in Stadium and I studied mathematics in university, so yes, I do know my mathematics. A lot of people love jumping into the epic items thinking that they're getting so much value because it's the most shiny, expensive item, but really they are wasting their credits and this is actually really bad. I'm gonna give you a few examples to give you the idea. So, for this example, I have this rare item which gives you 10 ability power and 10 ability lifesteal, but it costs 4,000 credits. If you want these exact same stats, you can get them at half the price. You can buy these two items, which will give you 10 ability power and 10% lifesteal, but only 2,000 credits. The only thing is that now you cost 2 slots instead. I'll give you another example. A lot of people love jumping into the epic ability power champions kit, which gives you 35 ability power, but it costs a whopping 14,000 credits, which is very expensive. Let's see what we can do with 14,000 credits instead. Now with only 12,500 credits, I have gotten 40 ability power, 5% cooldown, and 10% lifesteal by picking up 2 rare items and 2 common items instead. So not only does this cost less, but I'm actually getting more stats than the 35 ability power from the epic item. Why is that? It's because your slots are actually a resource. I am using my slots to save money. I'll give you one last example to give you the idea. Let's just say we only have 25,000 credits in the round, and someone who isn't doing the maths properly might just go for the epic items thinking that that's the best value. They might pick up these 2 epic items which will give them 55 ability power, 10% cooldown, and 100 over health when they ult. Let's see what we can do with 25,000 credits when we use up all our slots. So this build is actually cheaper at 24,750, and not only do I still maintain my 55 ability power, 10% cooldown, and the 100 over health when I am ulting, I get all these other stats like 5 weapon power, 10% attack speed, and 10% lifesteal. So not only is it cheaper, but I am getting more value. Why? Because I'm actually using up my empty slots. This is why jumping into the epic items straight away early to mid game is not a good idea if you have empty slots. You almost always want to use up as much credits as you can whilst filling up your slots. Now I know for sure that I'm going to get asked 2 questions, so I'll start off with the first one. Now the first one is going to be, what if I pick out epic items and just fill out the rest with common items? Something like this build where I have 2 epic and 4 common items. This is actually still not good because with most builds you want to have a nice mixture of damage and survivability. If you have a build something similar to this, you're going to have a lot of your power budget in the damage aspect, but you're not going to have a lot of survivability, and so you're going to be very easily killed. Unless you are really not dying and you're doing fine, then you almost always want to have some good survival items, because at the end of the day, it does not matter how much weapon power you have, it does not matter how much ability power you have. If you are dead and you have the gray screen, you are doing only 0 damage. So you want to have some survivability items so you can stay alive. So instead of this build, let's see what we can do with 30,000 credits instead. So with this build that consists of only rare items, it costs 27,000 credits. Now this build still has quite a lot of damage. It has 45% ability power instead of 55, and you have 5% cooldown instead of 10. This time you also have 10% attack speed. What is more important though is that we now actually have some armor. We have 2 rare armor items, Vitality and Crusader Hydraulics, which will keep you much more alive than the 2 common survival items that we had before. Again, I just want to hammer this point because it's so important. It does not matter how much damage you have, okay? If you have a gray screen, if you are dead, if you have a respawn timer on you, you are doing 0 damage, okay? Let that sink in. Build some survival items. Now the second question that I know for sure I'm gonna get asked is, what about specific passives that you get out of the epic items? Are they ever worth getting? And the answer to that is yes, but in very, very niche scenarios depending on what character you're playing. For example, Moira is very good with Cyber Venom. When you deal ability damage, you can apply 30% healing reduction, which is amazing on Moira because her orbs can apply them so effortlessly. You can get so much value out of this on Moira that I think it's worth rushing. Another example would be for AP Mei. If you're going AP Mei, she is so reliant on her blizzard damage, and Icy Veins can double the damage of your Blizzard. It turns it from 20 to 40 damage per second, which is impossible to get if you're just building ability power on 10,000 credits. You would need 100% ability power to reach those numbers, but we're not going to get that on 10,000 credits, so Icy Veins is very good value. Granted, if you were to spend that 10,000 credits on raw ability power stats, you can increase the Ice Wall HP, and you can increase the Ice Boulder doing damage when it knocks people back, but really, it's going to be more worth getting the Blizzard damage because that's actually most of her damage. So in this case, yes, rushing this epic item for May is very well worth it. Here are some examples of when it is not good to rush an epic item just for the passive. An example of people who love to rush epic items thinking that the passive is good are Cassidy players. Cassidy players love getting this one, the Closer, which gives you 20% weapon power and 10% critical damage, but this is not good to rush, especially when you have empty slots to use. With 14,500 credits, you can get way more weapon power and attack speed, which will boost your damage way more than this 10% critical damage, because at the end of the day, 10% of piss low damage is 10% of piss low damage. Much like with this Eye of the Spider, people want to get it because deal 10% increased damage to the enemies below 30%. Wow, that must be so good. No, at the end of the day, 10% of piss low damage is 10% of piss low damage. You don't have the raw power to back it up. You don't have the raw stats because you jumped all the way straight to the Eye of the Spider. This passive doesn't mean anything if you don't actually have the raw stats to begin with to back it up. You get those raw stats by building the cheaper items, the rare items, and even common items, and filling out your item slots. Items such as Eye of the Spider and the Closer work much more better when they are with other items that they can boost. They are percentage-based items, and therefore they are multipliers. Therefore, they work better in conjunction with other items rather than as standalone items. Yes, that is how mathematics works. So I hope this video helps you with your builds. I see so many people rushing epic items early game to mid, and they have empty slots, and it is so tilting to see. It is very, very bad. It is not good. It is mathematically inefficient. It's just not good. Don't do that unless it's a very specific scenarios, again, such as Moira having anti-heal.